Hello guys, it's Kene once again, and today we shall be looking at solving a math problem, right? That requires the problem is this. It is getting the circumference and area of a circle using a Python program. But I want to do things differently today. I want to use a GUI, a graphical user interface. And to do that, I'll be using the tkinter module, which is like a core part of Python these days. Right. So I should get on with it now, sharing my screen. Okay, so guys, let's look at the question again. Write a Python program which accepts the radius of a circle from the user and computes the circumference and area of that circle. Take the value of pi to be 3.142 and the unit of that radius. So this should be radius, guys. The unit of the radius should be centimeters. So that's it. I hope you understand the question. Just basic maths. But I want to introduce us to GUI programming in Python. So it's not just creating user interface that does nothing, but it's geared towards solving a problem. Let's get on with it. Enough of the talk. I'm going to import some modules that I'll be using for this, and it is, basically tkinter, or what some call tkinter. All right. So import tkinter as tk. That's the alias. And then I would also, from that module, I need a class from tkinter import, right? Let me import ttk, right? And from tkinter import, I need to import font. And just in case, just from tkinter, this may not be good practice, but just want to do it. From tkinter import everything. Okay, so I think we are set. The modules we'll be needing, I have imported. The next thing now, guys, having the question in mind, how do we want to achieve it? First, we need to know how to get the circumference and area of the circle. So any secondary school or primary school math textbook will show us that the circumference of a circle is derived with formula 2 multiplied by the value of pi and multiplied by the radius. So it's just something like 2 pi and r, 2 pi r. That's for the circumference of the circle. Now the radius the area will simply be pi multiplied by the radius and the radius. So pi multiplied by the square of the radius. So these are the formulas. Let's have them somewhere. Okay. So let me just comment this out and comment this out as well. Right. So let's start, guys. First, I need that window, the tkinter window. And to initialize that, I'm simply going to create that object, the window object. And I'm going to have it this way, tk. Let me use window. That's just a variable name for that object, and set this to tk. So that is the object, the tkinter window object. Then with that now, I can set some properties. So window dot title. So let's give it a title. Let me say circle. It has to do with circles, right? What we want to calculate today. Then we need to set the dimensions of that window, the height and the weight. The height and the width of that window, right? So we use this method called geometry. Then it takes a string. I don't know why, but it's the x there is just going to stand as by. So a by b, the height and the width. And I should set this to say 700 by 400. So the width is 700 and the height is 400. Let's see, let's run the program. You'll see that none is going to show up. Nothing will show up. Oh, I forgot to indent. That's the thing about Python. Please don't forget the indentation. Since I have the if block here, whatever comes within that should be indented. Okay, then let's see what we have. I run my program. Oops. Now it was successfully executed, but nothing showed up, no window. That's because we need to get it into a loop so that it stays continuously on the screen. Once it's created, it's pushed to the screen and it stays there until we exit the loop by clicking the X or close tab. So that method is called the main loop. So using this object, the window object there, then I will call the main loop method. Okay, so let's see. All right, so that's it. I have the window here. I can just drag this. But the thing is, I don't want the user to be able to change the size, either the height or the width of this window. I'm just going to do one more thing here. Just going to say, using that object, resizable. Now, I don't want it resizable, so I'm going to set false for the width and false for the height. So that way, the user is unable to. So you see, I can't drag it. I can't drag it down. Nothing. So that's it. Resizable, false, false. All right. Now this is my thinking. The design thinking here. I would like a menu, right? When you visit the website, you click on this menu item, you're taken to this page or this view, and another item on the menu, you're taken to another view. But we are going to try to implement something like that using tabs, in our tkinter window. So I'm going to have a menu with two items. That is, one will show the widgets for calculating the circumference, and the other frame that is attached to that tab will show all the widgets for the area of that circle. Okay, so that's what we want to do. First, let's get the controls for the tab that we want to create. And to, to do that, I'm going to create a variable, maybe call it tab control, tab cont. And then with that done, I'm going to use a method called notebook. Guys, don't forget that method is called the notebook. Right. So I'm going to say ttk, which is yeah, it comes as part of tkinter, but it's kind of separate. So we need to it's a separate object here that has its own method. So ttk notebook. I want to create a notebook. So you know how you flip pages. You go from page 1 to page 2, page 2 back to page 1, something like that. So that's a notebook. And I'm going to create a notebook in the main window, which is like takes an object, this window here. So that's why I'm putting the window as the argument for it. Then the next thing I will do is I'm going to now take that tab control and create the tabs. But before I do that, guys, I'm going to create frames. The frames are like, oh, the surface, the wall on which you put all these other widgets, say the buttons and the input, entry, and all. So I'm going to create my frame. So to do that, I'm going to say frame, sorry, just call this frame, and ttk dot frame. Okay, now I have created this frame. Now I'm going to, let's remember that the frame will be created and connected to the tab control. So I need to give it that as an argument, the tab control. So that's going to control the view of the frames. Right. Then let me call this tab 1. I think that's better. And I need 2 tabs. And this should be tab 2. Okay. Right. Then the next thing I want to do now is to add the tab to the tab control, because now the tabs are just like floating. Okay, I need to add them now to the tab control. And I'm just going to do that by calling tab control. Just get tab control and use the method, the add method, just as simple as that. Then I would give it the tab and also do the same thing for the second tab, tab 2, but I'm using tab control, and it will take this method, tab 2. But what about the text? I need something to show text to give information. So I'm just going to set some text here. I'll call this circumference. Circumference. Then for the other one, text, and call this area. All right. So I think we're making progress. Okay, so now guys, the thing is, now we've connected the tabs to the tab control. right? But we now need to make it visible. That's the next thing we have to do, right? So I'm just going to take tab control and use the pack method. Now this puts everything on that window so that it's visible. You get what I mean? So I'll just see what we have and hope there are no errors. Okay, so that's it. I have circumference and area here. But it's not doing much, is it? No, just nothing happening. Just that I'm able to click on those two menu items, as I wish to call them. Right. Let's see, I'm going to use an argument, keyword argument there, expand and set it to true. Then I want, because I want to start from the beginning and then can expand outward. So fill both. Let's see. Right. So that's it. Right, guys, we've gone, yeah, to some extent we are making progress, but then we need to now create those widgets. Let's just go straight into it. I'm going to create my frame, the body frame, as I want to call it, just BF, the body frame, and get TTK. And from TTK, I'll use a method that is called the label frame. The label frame. Okay. Now that label frame is like the parent container that is going to hold the sub widgets on that window. Okay. So this will take, it's going to take the tab. You know that I have two tabs, so I need to connect the frame to a tab so that once I click on that tab, the frame appears. That's why I have this. So I would actually need two label frames. This is for the first tab. I call it body frame for tab 1 and body frame for tab 2. That's BF2. Great. Now let's put some text there. Text. Which should be circumference. Let's just repeat that. And text should be area. Okay, so I need to separate these two arguments with a comma. Right, so I have the frames now. Next thing I want to do is to create the frame itself. It's a child frame of that label frame, but it's the frame that will now hold the buttons and the entry input, the input entries. Okay, so I'm going to just call this, the label now, call it L1, L for label, and get TTK, then label. The label method now will take some arguments. Again, guys, you see, it's all about connections. This child relates to this parent. Now, my label comes within the label frame. So I need to tell Python that this is for label frame 1. So that's BF1, right? And I'm going to create text for that. I should now say enter that. So that's what you're going to see just before the input. Enter radius of circle. And just centimeters, please. That's just to show that whatever we have there will be in centimeters. Then the next, I'll just copy this. Right. So enter radius of circle. This time again, enter radius of circle. Not much to do there. Then afterwards, guys, I'm now going to like it operates a grid system. So different elements at different locations. So those locations form part of the entire grid. So I'm going to use a method called grid to add these widgets to the window. So I'm going to say BF1, which is the main frame or label frame, and I will call the grid method. Now that's where I will set the position of the widget. So I'm going to have this, I'm going to use column and row. So this is it, guys. The top, starting from the top left corner, you have column 0, counting from 0, and row 0. Then again, if I still on that top, at the top level, I can move rightwards. That gives me column 1. I move rightwards again, that gives me column 2. But if I want to come down to the next level, downwards, of course, then it will no longer be row 0. It will now be row 1, and coming down further, row 2, coming down further, row 3, and on and on and on. So I would set the column to 0, comma, then the row will be 0. Then again, I want some space, between that widget and the surrounding objects. So I'm going to set that with pad X. Let's just take 8, not too much, and pad Y. That should be 4. Pad X, pad Y, 4, right? Great. Then I'll just do the same thing for the other body frame. When I say body frame, I actually mean that label frame there. So BF2. Great. Now I have added the label frames to the window, so giving them their positions. I need to do the same thing for the labels, because the labels are part of like the entire structure. So they too deserve their own positions so that they are shown, they appear to the user. So I'm going to just take the same thing, just copy that. But instead of the body frame now, I'm going to get the label object there, L1 and L2. And this time, I want the labels to remain at that position, even when the container, the dimensions of the container change. It should remain at that location. That is the label. So I'm going to use this argument called sticky, and getting tkinter west, it should be positioned That's it should be positioned at the west and should remain there. Great. Okay, so that's just going to copy this. So I'm working on two tabs at the same time. Guys. Right. So this label will be created in the first frame, and the L2 label will be created in the second frame. All right. So guys, let's see. Hope there are no issues. Okay. So you see, I have the tab controls with the tabs. Then clicking on a tab, you get the frame. And on the frame, you see the label, area, enter, radius of circle. So this is that body frame as a rectangle. Then this is the label itself, enter, radius of circle. Okay. So I think we are making progress. The next thing we want to do now is to create an entry structure so that the user can input the value of the radius. So it's just very simple. I'm just going to, it's entry saved in a variable or assigned to this variable called E1. So ttk.entry, entry there, and I'm going to give it a parent, right? And remember that the parent is this body frame, the body frame here. Oh, sorry guys, not this. This entry is going to belong to tab 1. Oh, getting things mixed up. It's this BF1, sorry, because BF1 is already in tab 1. So there isn't a point there. So let's just get it within the frame itself. So that's BF1. And then the next thing is to set some text. I'm going to set some text here. No default text. Should be empty. Then next I want to do any other. All right. Nothing, just that will be okay. The text there. And I'll do for E2. This will create an input widget for the user. So in the second frame, I have E2, and that should be in body frame 2. Then as we did with the label, we're going to add to the grid. We'll add to the grid, okay? Okay, then take this E1, put it in a grid, E2, put it in the grid. Then this entry cannot share the same position as the label, that's the L1. So it has to come down by just 1 point. That's the row that is going to change, and it should start at the leftmost side. So that column remains 0, but the row position changes. Great. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, so here you see, I click. So the entry has been created. What next do I need now? Should I say a button? Because of course, after entering the value, the radius, the user has to click a button to get the answer. So I'm going to create a button. I would call this but1. Then ttk dot button. Now the button will take some parameters, okay? The first, I want to give it the container where it should live, where it should exist. That's still the BF body frame 1. And then set some text. I should just say calculate circumference. Calculate circumference. And there's this argument that gives action to the button. That's the command argument, and it takes a function. So I'm going to just give the name of the function, but we haven't created the function yet. So I'll just say command and calculate circumference. So just something like this, calculate circumference. It shows that there's an error, but I won't be able to see that this button, because now the program is going to crash. So I will just create that. I'll create that function calculate circumference. So I think I should create it here. So I'm going to use the keyword define cal circum with these parentheses. Then just like this, you remember how methods or functions are created. Then I don't want anything to happen. In Python, if you just want to skip it, without throwing an error, I just use the keyword pass so that because nothing, I'm not going to, it's here that we're going to write the program to do the actual calculation, but I'm not set for it now. And at the same time, I don't want any error thrown or raised. That's why I use the word pass. Okay, then for button 2, calculate area. As for button 2, it's in body frame 2 and button 2. Great. So I need to create that function again. Create function calculate area. Let me just. Programmers can be lazy. Just give this. Great. Calculate area, and that should pass as well. Then I need to put the buttons in the grid. Okay. Put the buttons. It's just repetitive anyway. That's why I'm just copying. So the button, that object there, the button object, but1 and but2. Put them in the grid. Now the row position will change again. Come down 1 point to 2 and 2. So it brings it down. Let's see. Great. So that's the button. Because we gave it the word pass, nothing is happening, no calculation, but at least you see that the button exists. Right, but I want some space between this button and the input widget there. So I need to use pad Y, that is the height padding. Over here, I will just say pad Y and maybe set it to 10. The same for this. Pad Y, set it to 10. Let's see. All right, so that's it, guys. We're making progress. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. So we need to now do the computation within the function so that when the user clicks, the computer registers the command and it is executed. That function is executed. So I'll go to cal circum. Instead of pass, let's create it. Right. I'm going to create a variable here. You see, tkinter has this method that can be used to create a real Python variable, a real Python string. So in tkinter, it is string var. That's that method. So once you get it, you can now use it as a Python, a normal Python string. Okay, so I will just call that cval, that's circumference value, and that will be tv. Now I haven't created the variable yet, just as follow tv dot string var, string variable. So it shows that there's an error here. Let's see what it says. Okay, but guys, I need to go to that point where we created the entry. Just before that, let us get that variable. Let's create that variable. TV is equal to an error here. It's not here. I'm supposed to create it. Let me just take this off. TV dot get. Okay, so I'm going to create that TV here. TV dot, I'm sorry, tkinter dot string var dot string var, and get really confusing. Okay, so I have created this variable, the string variable, from that tkinter method. I need to now pass it as a variable name, to that entry widget. We must do that. So text variable, it's text variable, and give it this variable. So that's the variable that will store whatever is imputed by the user, and then we can get it in our function. Right, so I'm going to do the same thing for this. Give it the text variable, and let me just call this TV2. That's for the second widget, for the second frame, the area, the one where we calculate the area of the circle. So I'll just call it TV2. Great. Okay, so I can now go back to my function. So TV gets the string or the value imputed. Then I'm going to set, once I have got it, I want to take it off. I don't want it to still remain there in that entry widget. So I will just set it to nothing. Set it to nothing. So that variable becomes empty. All right. Now let's calculate the circumference of the circle. So I'm going to say answer, and we know, remember the formula for the circumference of a circle, 2 pi r, 2 pi r. So that's like 2 multiplied by pi, and we ask that the value of pi be 3.142 multiplied by what the user imputed, right? So that's cval. The user imputed cval there. Okay, so this would perhaps give us a floating point of several decimal places, but I think I prefer just 2 decimal places, right? So, and guys, whatever is returned from this get method, there is a string, and you cannot perform arithmetical operations on a string. So I need to cast it. So there are methods, very simple methods. Str with the parentheses to convert, say, floating point numbers and integers to string, and then int to convert strings to integers, you know. And so I need the integer value, or maybe the float value for this. Float value, because the user may put in 3.1 and may put in 4.44, 3.72. So I just think I need the float. Okay. So that's been converted to float. Then the next thing I want to do is round everything with giving 2 decimal places. So I'm going to use the round method. Round, and it takes 2 arguments. The number that I want to round, and so this is everything. Let me just, guys, I want to do something now. This is one thing. This is the answer. So everything enclosed in parentheses. And the second argument will be the number of decimal places, 2. Then I am going to close it. Don't get confused with the too many parentheses. Okay. All right. So that's going to give us our answer to 2 decimal places. Then the next thing, guys, I need that answer as a string so that I can output it to the user. So let me just create a variable so it doesn't get too difficult to read. String ans, that's answer as string, and just simply convert back to string the answer that I got. Make it a string, right? Then I'm going to, I haven't created it yet, but I'm going to create a label where the answer will be displayed. So I'm going to say, still on that the first frame. So L1B, the second label of the first frame. That's why I'm using B there. So, I already have one label asking the user to type in the radius. Then I need another label where the answer will be shown. So I'm calling that second label. I'm going to call that second label L1B. I haven't created it yet, but I need it here. Then configure it. So there's a method called configure, and set the text to my answer, the string, the answer as string. So it's showing an error. Now we can now go back to create L1B. Let's create L1B, guys. So L1B, set it to ttk.label. ttk.label. And the same thing, it's going to be for body frame 1. And the text, just initialize the text to nothing because I'm going to collect the answer after the computation and display it in our function. Then what else? Okay, nothing again. Then I'm going to do the same thing, L2B, for the frame, the second frame, L2. So the second label in the second frame, these guys don't get confused. So that's for the second frame, and the text should be initialized as empty there. Great. Then let me add to the grid, add them to the grid. So I just copy this. L1B and L2B. I want some space, but not too much. 5 and 5. All right, guys. Again, I need to come down because that's like another widget. Cannot share the same position as the button. So I'm going to make the row 3 in each of the frames, the 2 frames. So let's see and hope there are no issues. Enter radius of circle, let me say 42. Calculate circumference, 263.93. Enter another one, calculate circumference, 452.45. So that's it. Our program, works. But that's just for the circumference. What about the area? We haven't done anything yet to that. But please, for this area, the label where the answer will be displayed has been created, but our function isn't doing anything yet. So let's just come here, and I'll just copy this and make some changes. So cval2, I get TV2. That's the, if we come back here, the text variable for the second entry, TV2. Then TV2, set it to nothing. I'm going to calculate for area of a circle, that's pi r squared. Pi r squared. Float cval float cval2. Okay, so that's it. So pi times r, to 2 decimal places. That gives us our answer. So this should be displayed here, L2B, the second label in the second frame. Okay, all right, so let's see what we have. Area by r squared. So let's say I give 7, 153.96. So the circumference works, the area works, I suppose, 54. Calculate the circumference, 33.34. But again, I don't just want that figure or the number displayed. I want a message along with it, something like the area of your circle, of the circle is blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to concatenate. Concatenate means join strings and join strings to strings, join strings to variables. So, and that's, there's the concatenation operator there is for Python, like in many other languages, is the plus sign, right? So I'm going to say text, the area, or rather the circumference, this is for circumference, the circumference of the circle is, then I end that string, concatenate it with this variable, and afterwards continue with the rest of the string. I continue with the rest of the string, centimeter. Okay, so I'll do the same thing for the area message. Start my string and concatenate it with this variable. So I would say the area of the circle is, then I will have this, and centimeter square. Okay, right. The area of the circle is blah, 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 and the circumference of the circle is blah, blah, blah. Let's see what that gives us. (42). Yeah, the circumference of the circle is blah, blah, blah centimeter. Let's try the area. Let me say the area is 14 now. I mean, the radius is 14 for area of the circle. The area of the circle is, now one thing, you see, I have calculate circumference. That's because I copied. So I need to just quickly correct this. It's calculate area for the second, in the second frame. So where do I have it? Okay. Where? Calculate area. I need to correct that. Okay. So one more thing now. The fonts aren't looking like large enough, so I need to do something. That's it. That's why we actually imported the fonts class from tkinter. Did we? We didn't. So, oh yeah, so it's here. Import font. I'm going to get the fonts. I'll just say my font. Get the fonts class and font object there. I mean fonts, the font method of the fonts class, and initialize, I mean get those arguments, supply those arguments rather. So I would say family. Let me say Arial, and then the weight should be bold. Then the size, should I say 16? The size should be 16. All right. Then what I'm going to do now, having created this font here, I am going to go to that widget, close to it. Where do I want? I want this, I want it to be bigger. I want this here to be bigger than it is. This L1, okay? So I'll just bring it down and create do some styling. Style for label. Style for label, and then I would say ttk dot style. Initialize that. Then I would configure style for label. Style for label dot configure. Then I'm going to, yeah, at this point, I'll just get font and set the value to my font. And when I come to this label here, I'll give it a new argument, which is style. Style, and the value will be style for label. So it should be get this. Then the name, sorry, that I'm going to call here C label. Then get this here. Oh, this should work now. So you see that it's bigger. Enter radius of circle. I'm going to, what we did here is that, okay, yeah, we initialize this, we call the style method and then configure the properties of that, of this label. And then using that layout here created, we are able to, manipulate the font. I'm going to do just the same thing. So I want the same styles for the two labels. I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm going to do the same thing for the buttons. So the same style for the buttons. I'm going to come here where we initialize the button and T label. That shouldn't be label, actually. I should make it T button. So I'm going to just correct something here. T button for the button. And I come here, instead of having T label, I'll just configure it again. And this time, let me just call this style. Style. Okay, so this should just be T button. Okay, let's see. Right. So I think it's looking bigger now. Enter radius of circle 42. Great. And let's say enter radius of circle for the area 21. Calculate. Right. Okay, guys. I think we are done with this, right? But one more thing, I want to, let's see if we can change the size of the fonts where you have, that's the text for the label frame. That's where you have this area here. Let's see if we can do that. I just want it to be a bit bigger. Right. Now, let's get this. Let me just call this S ttk.style again. Then configure that object, the widget there. S dot configure. Then I'll call this a label L. That's just for label. And T, that's layout there. T label frame. T label frame layout dot the label, just like this. Then I'm going to now give the style properties. So that's for me going to be, for example, font, and it takes a tuple. I would say background. Background should be red. Then what about the foreground? Should be white. No, this should not be. Background should be different. I'm not working on the font yet. Foreground, then I can now get the font as a tuple. So I can just say maybe Bedana. Maybe 16, and then it should be bold. All right, I think we're good to go. Oh, see what I typed here instead of foreground. Okay, right. I hope everything is in order. Background is red, then the foreground white, then the font Vedana 16 points bold. And I'm going to go to that body frame. And I will just give the style. Give the style, and that should be set it to L dot C label frame. Oh, I'm putting it in the wrong place, guys. This is for the button. I need it to come to the, you leave here first. I need it to come to this point. So style, circumference. The label frame, please. Not here. The label frames. Not for add. Add doesn't take a style method. So it's when I'm initializing this label frame, I'll put the circumference. I mean, when I'm initializing this label frame, I'll put the style. Okay, so please guys, let's take it again. Here we configured the widget properties for the label frame, and we did that right here. Where is it? We did that right here. No. where did I configure this thing? I need to just bring it to the top so that it's easy to find. Okay, yeah, I'll just take this thing, take it to the top. All styles at the top. So for my label frame, I initialized it here, then set the properties. And I gave the style as an argument for the label frame over here. Okay. Yeah. So over here, l.tlabel frame. All right. So I hope there are no issues. I'll just run the code. So we see that now the circumference looks bigger and it has a red background. 44. Okay, so that's it, guys. I hope we learned something from this tutorial. It requires some effort, working with tkinter in Python. A lot of time is spent on getting the widgets right before you even come to doing the actual calculations in your functions. But I'm sure that we'll learn something. I will leave this. Okay, I'm going to leave this program. I'll leave this program on my website so you can download the source file. I'll just put it there. I haven't done that, but I'm going to put it there. So it's just www.tutoraid.com.ng. So you'll find a link to my Python. I'm going to create a link to my Python programs so you can get the files and use it to practice. This is the website again, www.tutoraid.com.ng. Right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. It's been wonderful going through this. We'll continue solving problems in subsequent videos. Do have a nice day. See you later.